Hi Jeff. For the benefit of those watching, I wonder if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a wee bit about who you are and what exactly Habilitat is.
Okay, my name is Jeff Nash. I am a fully recovered drug addict and presently the program director for Habilitat Incorporated. Habilitat, the place of change. I've been with Habilitat since 1996. I'm actually a byproduct of the program, went through the program, stayed around for a while, was trained to work here, and have pretty much been here ever since.
And for those who may not have heard of Habilitat, what exactly is it?
Habilitat is a long-term residential drug and alcohol treatment program. At least that's what we're licensed for. But we do a whole lot of other things as well. Basically, Habilitat is a place where people come when their lives have become unmanageable, and they learn to live life on life's terms. They learn to toughen up. They learn pro-social skills. They learn resourceful coping techniques. We also are known for our vocational training program. So basically, Habilitat is a 24 to 30 month live-in experience. It's a therapeutic community in the true sense of the word. Therapeutic communities basically operate from the premise that the community is the method of treatment. And it's a very old model for treating addictions. In fact, they've used that model to treat mental health issues as well. But we utilize the community members, that is the people in the program, as the motivation to change. So they help each other to change. We're unique in several ways in that obviously the length of our program is very long. And most people, when they hear about that, they want to know, how do we fund Habilitat? You know, how do you get funding for that length of time? And the answer that I usually give people is pretty simple. We do it the old-fashioned way. We work for it. Habilitat's unique in a sense that we don't accept any government funds. We don't want to accept government funds. We were founded in 1971, and about 72 or 73, we became totally self-reliant and independent. The guy who founded Habilitat, he was of the idea that if you were going to teach people self-reliance and independence, then we really should practice it as an organization. So since the early 70s, we haven't had any contracts, grants, things like that with the government. Our opinion about that is, you know, when they give you money, they want you to do it their way. And the reality is, if their way worked, they wouldn't be paying us to do it. So, you know, we've had offers, plenty of offers in the past to, you know, work with government agencies and get lots of funding. You know, we could become very, very wealthy if we were to do that, because they would give us a lot of money, but we would have to compromise what we do, and we'd have to do it their way, and their way doesn't work. So Habilitat is a lot of things. It's a place where, you know, basically the worst, what society would call the worst of the worst. They come here when everything else has failed, when their families, when society has given up on them, when they've tried every other program, they come here. This is the last house on the block. And usually we're able to get results where everything else has failed. And part of the reason is the length of the program. But I think really it's got more to do with the fact that we're treating the whole person and not just an addiction. We are bold in our stance that addiction is not a disease, and a lot of people don't like to hear that, especially the medical establishment and a lot of other programs. They have a medical approach, a psychiatric approach. We do everything we do here based on the premise that addiction is not a disease, it's a symptom. And if you treat the underlying problems, there is no addiction. And we've been very successful doing that. We have 100 residents here, and not a single one of them is on any kind of antidepressants, psychotropic drugs, you know, Valium, anything like that. And we have a lot of people here that have been, what I say is, misdiagnosed with a lot of different, you know, anxiety conditions, mental illness, depression, and all these things. But because our environment is very pro-social, when someone comes in with those kind of problems, it's almost like it just goes away. So that's what Habilitat is. We're a licensed long-term drug and alcohol treatment program.
And what sort of reputation do you have?
Well, it depends on who you ask. If you ask the other treatment programs, they think we're harsh and that we're nuts over here. They think we're crazy. If you ask the Hawaii judiciary, the judges, the probation officers, they will tell you that this is the only program in the state that gets results. We work extensively with the judiciary. In fact, we have several judges on the bench that believe in us wholeheartedly, and will oftentimes allow someone the option of either being incarcerated for many, many years or coming to Habilitat.
Right.
So as a result, the vast majority of people that come to us from here in the state come through the court systems. And yeah, so our reputation, it just depends on who you ask. If you want to know my view on our reputation, is we are the last house on the block. We're the place that people come when all else has failed. And this is the toughest program, I think, probably in the nation. It's probably the hardest program in the nation. There's no doubt about it. It's tough. It's that way on purpose. We're challenging people to be their best. We're pushing people to their limits gently, a little at a time. But when somebody goes through what I call the Habilitat experience, they're going to find out what they're made of. They're going to find out what they're capable of, and they're going to leave here with a completely different view of themselves and a better understanding of what they are actually capable of doing.
Very good. So, having set the scene, how did Faster EFT get here?
Well, that's a long story, another long story. Basically, I met Robert Smith, the founder of Faster EFT, through a girlfriend a long time ago. And she introduced me to him, and he actually came here to Hawaii and stayed in my home. And I come to find out he's from Oklahoma, and I was actually born in Oklahoma, so we had an instant connection there. And you know, to be real honest, in the beginning I was skeptical but intrigued. Because Habilitat is so different than most other programs, I've always been taught here to always be on the lookout for new, innovative, out-of-the-box methods to get results. So, but I also go into this with some skepticism and caution, because obviously I'm responsible for a lot of people's lives and their freedom here. But we hit it off really well. And when he found out, you know, about Habilitat, he was interested in using his skills and his knowledge and his wisdom to help some people here. So the first time he came, I was very skeptical. I wanted to try it, make sure that it was safe, and try it on me. So I actually, the girl that introduced me to him paid for me to have a session, a couple sessions with him actually. And I did see some results, and I did feel different afterwards. So I allowed him to come in and work with some of the older people, older meaning older in the program, people that were almost ready to graduate, people that were very stable here emotionally. And they seemed to get some good results. And since that time, he's come back at least once a year, every year since, and it's just kind of grown and blossomed and turned into something that we're using as one of our methods of treatment here.
So, does Faster EFT work then?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely, absolutely.
And why?
I've used it. He's used it on me. I've used it on me. Of course, I've worked with you, and I've seen some very dramatic changes in some of the people that are in our program, especially with, you know, what I call the crap that we carry around with us. You know, the memories from the past that we just for whatever reason have a hard time letting go of. A very, very accurate and expeditious way of just letting that stuff go. And of course, it's a big help to us here because, you know, we get a lot of people that come here and they've been through a lot of things. The vast majority of people in our program have lived through some type of abuse, be it physical, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and of course also sexual abuse. And those scars are sometimes hard to get out of the way. And in clearing that stuff out of the way, it helps us to do what we do here a whole lot quicker. So it's been very, very valuable for cleaning up the trash from the past.
And why do you think it does work, Jeff?
Why do I think it does work? Well, I wondered that when I first started learning about it, but it seems to me that very much like how Habilitat was found, it seems to me that Robert Smith has gone and learned these different methods of healing or of helping people. And it seems to me he's taken bits and pieces from all these different things that he's learned and he's put it into one powerful package, and it's pretty effective. That's kind of like Habilitat was founded. Our founder had been to a lot of other programs, and he took what he liked from all these other programs, added a little of his own wisdom and knowledge, and created Habilitat. So there's a lot of things in common with how it came to be. But I think that's probably why. I also think that Robert is in a perpetual state of learning and growing and getting better. He didn't lay back on his laurels. In fact, when he comes here, he asks lots of questions, and it's very obvious to anybody that wants to pay attention that he's actually continuing to make it better and to perfect it even more, and finding more accurate ways of applying it. Like for instance, he came here 4 or 5 years ago, and he really wanted to know, he needed to learn about the addictive mind because he isn't an addict, and so he spent a lot of time asking questions and trying to figure out, okay, what is it that addicts have in common, what are they doing inside, and how can this be applied to them. And I think this time around, this is either the 4th, maybe 5th or 6th time that he's been here. I haven't kept count, but I think we hit a home run. They worked with almost everybody in the whole program. Certainly anybody that wanted to, some of them more than once. And they were working with tough issues, not, we're not talking little issues, we're talking about lifelong historical pain. And you can just sense the change in energy around here. You can sense a change in the attitude. You can see people come out of the sessions and they're walking lighter. And all these kind of things. So I think that working with all the practitioners, with our feedback, the fact that he's always willing to learn more and evolve. It's constantly evolving, and I think that's part of the reason. A lot of people, they find something and they just stick with it and they don't let it evolve, and then it just stays at the level that it's at. He's evolving it, and the people that are working with him are evolving it all the time. So, I had been, when we did the session last year, I had been queen for 16 years, and I had been the program director here for about 10 or 11 years. And although I knew inside my heart that I would never use heroin again, I have no desire to use heroin, I fully believe that when I start using heroin, basically it takes everything from me, and there's no controlling it. So I made a conscious choice a long time ago, I'm never going to do it again. However, even after being queen for 16 years, when I would see a syringe, or when I would have to go to the doctor and get a shot, or I would see something on TV, somebody, a documentary, someone shooting drugs or whatever, my body responded to it. And I would get, I would cringe, and my heart would start to race, and it's not that I wanted it or I was craving it, but the point is that there was still a connection. There was still a connection to it, and Robert and I sat down and talked about it a little bit. He said, wouldn't it be better if it just didn't mean anything to you, and that your body didn't respond, and it just had no meaning? And he was explaining, like, when he sees a syringe, it doesn't really have the same meaning to him as it does to me, and wouldn't it be better to change that meaning? And I said, yes, it definitely would. So when we did the session, I came in with an open mind, and in a 2-hour span, you were able to disconnect those responses, those body responses to those memories, And you did a really good job, because now keep in mind, this was last year that we did this, but still to this day, when I see a syringe, all I can think about is the beach. And it's really strange, because you program that in there, and I'll be honest, when I first started doing this stuff, I thought, okay, well, it makes you feel good for a little while, whatever, but like everybody else wants to know, does it really last? Well, this was 2012 that we did this. It's now 2013, and I can attest that every time I see a syringe, the first picture that comes into my mind is beach, and no longer does my body respond the way that it used to. It's gone. It's gone. And it doesn't have the same representation inside me anymore.
So having had that personal experience with the Faster EFT, your 2-hour session, and having experienced those changes within you, what do you think now are the implications of the Faster EFT system within the Habilitat ethos?
Okay, that's a really good question. Like anywhere else, except Faster EFT, change comes slowly. And each year it's getting more prominent and more prominent, and we're kind of slowly changing people's ideas about it. I was very proud to see this year that several of our staff members stepped up to the plate, and they wanted to get involved. They wanted to find out what it was all about. So I think as the skepticism of it erodes away, and people start to figure out that even though it may sound and look a little funny, it's really, really effective. I think we're moving towards eventually having all the clinical staff trained so that we can use it in our everyday therapies. I know a little about it. I have Robert's materials. I've spent a lot of time with him. I know the basics of it. My philosophy always has been whatever works. Whatever works, we'll use it. It doesn't have to be, there's this big thing in the industry, evidence-based practices. Basically that's their tag for things that they've studied and got evidence that it works. The problem with that is you only get an evidence-based practice if they study it. So there are a lot of practices they don't study, and there's no evidence, and there's no evidence because they haven't studied it. And we do use evidence-based practices. I've been trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, motivational interviewing, and several other things. We use standardized assessment tools here because it makes the licensing agency happy. They're not real helpful, to tell you the truth, but I foresee us more and more integrating Faster EFT into our everyday routine here.
If we take it to the grassroots, which is the people who are here, what was their response to it? What have you found that their response has been?
Overwhelmingly positive. Amazement. I know a little bit more about it because I've watched his videos and I've studied it and I've read. But some of these guys, they're hearing about it for the first time. We had guys that had just come into our program days ago that went into a session and dealt with this crap that they've been carrying around for 20, 30, some of them 40 years, and they come walking out and they're just blown away. They're like, I can't even believe this. And you talk to them a few days later, a week later or whatever, and you try to check to see if it's still gone, and sure enough, it's still gone. It's lightened their load, and for the people, which is really most of our population, but for the people that got involved, they're blown away by it. They can't. It's hard for them to even believe that something they've struggled with for their whole life can just be gone like that.
Do you believe you are addicted?
I'm not addicted anymore. No.
And we've heard that this week, that the residents have been saying that they feel that they are no longer addicted. So I know that you have a great success rate here, somewhere within 65, 67%. So what impact do you think Faster EFT could have on your success statistics?
Well, the direction that we are heading with this, from the last time when you and I did it kind of as a trial run, and this time doing it en masse, they're the practitioners come here from all over the world, his top practitioners, and they're being taught basically how to use this in a very, very specific way for addictions. So they're bringing in, we have what we were calling drug kits. So we've tried to put together a little package for each practitioner that has everything that might trigger an addiction response from a drug addict. Pipes, syringes, white powder, and things that look like every kind of drug you can imagine. And basically what they're going to do is they take them in, and but for these people, they're trying to induce the addiction trance, and then they work with it until it's not there anymore. I think that's a very powerful thing. It gets the addiction part of it out of the way. Some programs would probably be happy and call that a success. For us, that's just the beginning. And what you guys are able to accomplish in 2 hours, if you recall what I was saying earlier, I had been clean 16 years and still had not accomplished that. And you did that with me in 2 hours. So I think it's clearing the way for us to do all the things that we do here even better. I think it will improve our success rate. Of course, there's a lot of things that we deal with here that don't have to do with addiction. Some of it's got to do with right living. People call it rehabilitation. The reality is some of the people that we have here, they're habilitating. They're learning these skills for the first time. So there's a lot of things that have to be covered here. But if we can get this tough stuff, the addiction responses to things, the sexual and emotional abuse and these things, if we can get that out of the way, it's going to make our job all the more easier to teach them the life skills that we teach them, and I think it's going to be a very beneficial thing.
So in some sense you're trailblazing here with this new Faster EFT technique. So how do you think that it would work in other facilities? Would they be open to it, or is there a future for it there?
Well, I think I think there is. I think if you pay attention, you're starting to see more and more medical establishment taking a look at this kind of thing. We actually have a doctor here on the island, a psychologist that is basically telling people to tap on themselves. Now it's not he hasn't been trained by Robert Smith, but he's bought into the fact that this whole thing is helpful. And actually one of the people here in our program had to go see this doctor and came home with this paperwork basically explaining where to tap. And I was like, really? And this guy's never even met Robert Smith, but I think if you really pay attention, and you're starting to see more doctors and more medical professionals involved in this. So I think once they take a chance and integrate it and start seeing that there's results that can be gotten from this that maybe they can't get in other ways, I think it's catching on. As far as other programs using the method, I really can't speak to that because this is the only program that I've ever worked for. Other programs, it's been my experience, they do things a very certain way. And I think if you had good leadership and people that were really in it for the change, to help people change, then I think it would be a great thing to integrate to any program. Well, not just a drug program either. I think it would probably work with all kinds of different problems. So, yeah.
So it would be safe to say that you would be recommending it?
I would recommend it to anybody that's emotionally intelligent enough to try it. And if you're not emotionally intelligent enough to try it, if you want quick results fast, if you try it, you will become emotionally intelligent enough to use it. Yes, I recommend it to anybody. And one of the things that I really like about it is you and Robert. I mean, Robert has like how many videos. He gives his stuff away to people to help them. And we have a lot of things in common, but I think, and you mentioned this the other day, I think you know, we enjoy helping people. Our cause in life, our purposes in life is to help other people to help themselves.
Yeah.
And that's probably why we all get along so well. That's our motive, to help other people learn to help themselves. So yes, I would recommend it to anybody that wants to have a better life. You know, I've heard stories of people using this on fibromyalgia, all kinds of pains. We had a guy that was here that had an accident in the surf and got hurt really bad, and they used it on him, and he recovered very quickly. I mean, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen it work with a lot of things. Now, I don't want to sit here and say that it's a cure-all, heal-all. Maybe it is, but I can't attest to that. But I can tell you it helps an awful lot of things.
Yeah, yeah. So is there anything else that you would like to share with people out there regarding this Faster EFT technique, or?
Well, yeah, I would just say that have an open mind and an open heart, and give it an honest try, and you might be very pleasantly surprised. You know, personally, I have found I use it frequently on myself, but I found that when I use it on myself, I do have results from that. But working with a practitioner, the results were drastic. You know, very drastic. I use it all the time if I feel myself in a bad mood or a bit off center. You know, I used to get anxious in crowds and things like that, and I found that anytime I feel myself getting, you know, out of balance, so to speak, I can use the technique, and usually within seconds, it's just I'm shifted back into center. Of course, when I worked with you or when I worked with Robert, I've had some pretty drastic changes with some historical stuff, and you know, I'm talking about serious grief and loss, and you know, the reasons that I became addicted, and the death of loved ones, and you know, abuse issues, all kinds of different things that were just cleaned up. So I would suggest that people try it out. I would suggest that at some point they seek out a practitioner. You know, the good thing is there's practitioners literally all over the world. And you know, there are a lot of really good ones, and try it out. You know, what's the worst that can happen? I can attest to the fact that it will not hurt you. You know, I know I had some family members like, well, this is kind of weird, you know, what if it hurts you? Well, I tried it on myself, and I had several practitioners try it on me. It can't hurt you, but it certainly can help you. So. And
it works on Skype?
It does. Yeah, it works on Skype. It works in person.
Yeah.
And actually, you can tap along with the videos. I know you have some videos. Robert has some videos. You can find one that's close to your issue, and you know, tap along with it, and you will get some benefits from it.
And it's free. So
it's free.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you have a computer and internet access, you can get some healing for yourself. And you know, if what I notice is a lot of people they come to Faster EFT seeking help for their own problems, and then they become practitioners and they want to help everybody else. And isn't that a wonderful thing? You know, you come seeking help for yourself, you get the help for yourself, and then you become inspired to help others. You know, it's a win-win-win situation, so that's wonderful.
Yeah. So I think that's a very good note to end on today, and thanks very much, Jeff, for this great interview. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.